Will there be a time? uh, Not directly, but write a book or upload a video or a comment. Give him a smiley. Everybody's being nice. It's as is unexpected. Um, I suffer from idiot disease. Right? Oh yeah, this is the one we were on. Okay. Oh yeah, this guy was cracking me up. Uh, yes, I'm also an educated fellow in a similar field, so I shall ask you a very good question that others in the thread. I assume this guy is joking or trolling. That others in the thread would not be able to ask without my insight. What is the brain's performance? How does video gaming work? It's an excellent question. Yes, harumph, harumph. Okay. All right, so this guy who with his poor idiot disease problem. Wait, why does it? Why did it just do that? I don't know why it highlights things randomly sometimes. Okay. I suffer from idiot disease, raid mechanic. Oh yes, this is a huge, interesting area. This is actually I actually did my thesis on multitasking, so that's kind of why this is a multitasking issue. Um, there's a lot I could say on this. So I assume he's talking about World of Warcraft, which I had a lot of friends play it. I never played it, and I assume because you're talking about raids, and I don't know if he's talking about mechanics about like you have your toolbar of abilities when if you're like a I don't know like you're a support player and you can heal people or you can prevent things from happening by putting like a shield down on them or clear crowd control or something. Like I know some of this stuff, but I never played it. I don't know the details. I'm just generalizing from RPGs. So, but in general, it's hard to prepare multiple responses to multiple things. So let me start with that. In general, it's hard to respond quickly with um, multiple. Problem with multitasking, which I did my thesis on. And so there's a lot of theories about how multitasking works. So I'll give you guys the juice and maybe I I don't know if you guys can read this screen if it's worthless, but whatever. If I don't yeah, let me see if I can pull something up here. Let me try this. This might be a disaster, but okay. All right, we got a little blackboard here I made out of Microsoft Paint because I am a technological wizard. Okay. All right, so the way psychologists hack, so the psychologist has been working on this stuff for like uh, 70 years at this point, since the 50s. Oh, yeah, I have coffee. I haven't drank coffee yet. That's good coffee. So, psychologists, quantitative psychologists. So, there's qualitative psychology, like you get into like psychoanalysis, what your mother said to you when you were 3 that made you have a personality type you are. There's qualitative psychology. There's a lot of like social philosophy kind of fused with that. And then there's quantitative psychology, which is treating the human like a machine and trying to measure it objectively. So, like one of the fields is called within quantitative psychology is called psychophysics, and the word psychophysics literally is psycho means person, like psychology. Psychopath means a pathological person, really. Psychology, the study of people. So psychophysics is literally the physics of people, and so that is something I learned and spent a lot of time in. Um, that's cool. Um, I'm still getting used to the Reddit stuff. Okay, so try not to derail myself here. So psychologists were. I mean, this probably goes back almost 100 years because they before stopwatches and stuff, they had all these. It's really hard to measure accurate reaction time, before the advent of electronics. So they had these really complex things, where people would try to, click, and maybe there's like a pencil drawing on a piece of paper that was being pulled by something mechanical, and then you'd measure the length of the. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Um, so their reaction time measurements back then weren't as sensitive. Now we have electronics. We have this is I think this is a cool thing. I think this is why this is still a fresh field if you're a grad student or something, or you're interested in this. There's a bunch of advantages that are fairly new that are super relevant to this stuff. Like we've had computer screens for, I mean, at least since the 80s, uh, but we've only recently had high refresh computer screens. So they've always been 60 hertz, which actually isn't that fast. So you can do experiments on the human eye at like a research grade monitor is way better than 60 hertz. Usually we pay lots of money and get like a deep old CRT monitor that can go um, well, at least double that, at least like 120 or 144 or something like that. And it's interesting because there's experiments where they will get these specialized like I don't know what they are. They're photodiodes or something, and they get them to flash with. So they get them to flash at like 500 hertz or even 2000 hertz. So hertz, just so you, in case you're, it's how many times something happens a second. So 60 hertz monitor is 60 times a second, which is about I can't do math on this, like 12 milliseconds. It doesn't matter. It's 60 chunks of 1 second. Um, I have a monitor, which I'm really happy about. I just got a new monitor. It's 240 hertz, which is really cool. So it's good enough. I could run cognitive neuroscience experiments if I was still interested in doing that. Um, so this is cool because it means the like at home laptop or computer and eventually our mobile devices will get that refresh rate possibly is going to be at the same quality level as research and lab equipment, which is really cool. Anyway, let me rabbit trail backwards because I am rambling like a crazy person. Uh, okay, so wow, we're talking about multitasking. Okay, so I was talking about psychophysics. So I don't know. See if this chalkboard thing works. Wow, this is kind of fun. Psychophysics. Okay. Wow. That's my mouse handwriting. Psychophysics. Um, so they really measure reaction time a lot, and then the other thing you can usually measure is accuracy, whether you're correct or incorrect. So the psychologist, my point is that they had models well before we started scanning with fMRI, and so their models on one hand might be problematic because they're biased by however they thought about it before we had better data, but there's some validity because they have decades of more literature behind them. Um, so the way they like to think about it is that you have it's kind of like in rat research. You have a stimulus and then you have a response. And they always talk about stimulus response mapping. So for this guy, it might be like a low HP bar or something in the game. Like if he sees one of his pals, I'm just assuming he's for this example he's playing. Oh wow, it's not even on the screen. There we go. Um, if he sees a friend of his with a low HP bar and he's trying to keep track of like five of them, say below like 20% or whatever, some threshold he's decided, it prompts him to respond, which might be hitting like the heal button or something on his keyboard, which maybe is mapped to the H button, and then clicking on that person or their little icon on the side. Okay, this is getting unnecessarily messy, so let me clean that up a little bit. But that the response is like healing, let's say. Okay. Yeah, my handwriting. Okay, so this is the psychologists talk about this model because this is something that happens in the external world, and then this is what happens in the brain. This is my little brain. I use the brain image a lot. Kind of looks like a brain. This is like the um, temporal lobe is the prefrontal cortex on the right side, and then, or I don't know if it's mirrored on yours, but and then the back is the visual cortex. Anyway, this is what's happening in the brain, and then this outside here is what's happening with, say, your arm or your hand on the mouse. Look at that. It's because I spent my whole life in artless science doesn't mean I can't sort of draw. Okay, so that's their arm clicking. Okay, but the point is, this is there's a visual or the environment. It's a stimulus, and then out here is like a motor action. It's like it's a or maybe I should say action. It's you doing something, right? So, and then in this whole thing is like cognitive. It's what's your brain doing. Your brain inhales this stuff from the environment, from your eyeballs in this case, and then outputs a response through your motor cortex, which connects to your down your spine to your fingers. Okay. Um, let me whoops. Let me fix something really fast on stream. Oh, okay, I thought the sound went up. Okay, cool. Um, okay, so the reason I went through this whole thing is because there's a very I don't know how to say it. There's a very strong opinion. That's really what science is. There's a bunch of people with strong opinions of philosophies, personal philosophies, and then they try to prove them. But everyone comes at it with their own bias. There's no objective scientists. All scientists are wildly biased. We just hope in aggregate over time, and usually it's multi-generational time, this results in objectivity. But the strong opinion of a lot of the psychologists, and they're old and still kicking. So until they die and there's a new wave, a lot of times these things won't shift, which is why science kind of moves in these like 30-year cycles, because it literally is dependent on these generational shifts of people leaving and new people coming in. And that's why, like, we've had probably video games for 20 years and it's still not, say, incorporated that deeply or studied that much. It's only studied as this weird, like, fleeting social phenomena, maybe sometimes on the par of like smoking or something. And where I had the opinion of this is a remarkably dynamic and controlled electronic and immersive environment for your brain that you can really ramp up the challenge level and titrate it exactly, which is really important when you do psychophysics or measure anything. If you overwhelm something or you don't stimulate it enough, you're not going to get great information. So anyway, I'm gonna keep rabbit trailing, so I'm gonna pull myself back here.